it's all a testing, like science, to me, testing it to see if the calculation in the end comes together as a whole.
Yeah, you could go with the Waite Rider deck, which is kind of the classic one, but there's so many variations that all kind of carry similar themes, but they have their own flavor, essentially. Different decks. It's kind of like it's personal to you.
Drawing some parallels to other things I've experienced in life, like, whether it's, trying to figure out what your dreams meant or something, or, thinking about somebody and then they call on the next day or something on the phone. And back when people did that.
You have to experience it for yourself to know, you just do.
Deep sea diving. Legendary frozen pond. Lower PC roster. Visualizing season 6 of Kitchen Sick Microscopy.
Right, everybody, welcome to another Kitchen Sick Microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we'd love it if you'd like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and have a conversation down there in the comment section. That'd be awesome.
Yes, and I am Casey Rochford. And we happen to write some music, which I don't know if you care about that, but if you do, hang out to the end of the episode and you'll hear a little bit of stuff that we have written. So tonight we have a guest on the show. Rachel is here to talk about tarot, and if I'm not mistaken, is that your art I see behind you?
Yes, it is.
That is some
my
kick-ass
original
stuff.
oil paintings. So, yep, that's my main thing. But I do tarot on the side. So,
Right on.
Some really nice art. I like it. Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful. If you have a link to, I don't know, a gallery or where you sell art, if you sell your stuff, then we could give it to us and we'll drop it in there, down in there.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a website and then my Facebook and Instagram. So
Okay. Yeah,
Cool.
we're
We'll
always
put those links in the description.
Description,
I guess you call that.
Yep.
So, what got you into tarot? Like, how long have you been practicing that? Let's say.
well, at first I was just really curious. That was several years back, but after getting my first deck, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I tried and I tried and I didn't get it. It wasn't until about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I went through a real dark night of the soul, and man, it just opened me up to everything. And I started like questioning life and questioning everything. And the cards just came to life before me, and I just started being able to read the energy, and I started finding answers to questions, the deeper questions of my own existence. And it brought a lot of healing into my life. And tons of healing. And it eventually became a tool to provide healing for other people. And so, yeah, that's how it came about.
Huh.
So
do you describe it more as like a spiritual guidance, or maybe like a guided self-help tool? That
both.
Yeah.
Tarot is life. All the different it consists of all the different energies that we deal with from day to day, and archetypes that we come into contact with, or archetypes that we see within ourselves. Like, for instance, the King of Wands. He can be an amazing, attractive businessman, or he can be a narcissistic fuckwit that is afraid of emotional vulnerability. I mean, you've got the, there's can't have light without shade, or I should say, shade without light. But there's if you pull him in a reading, you may have to check your ego. You may be like, oh, there's something about me that's, not looking at the bigger picture here, that's afraid of something. And, it's just, it's just an example. But yeah, all the different cards are, there's deeper meanings. And plus, the meanings are different for everybody. You get what you get out of them. So, color is energy. You read the color of the cards. I mean, that connects the cards. I mean, to me, it's a mathematical equation. I read it binary. I read weird. I read so, I don't read like your average reader. It's 101. 0 is why the fuck we're here. That's the question. That's the answer. Ones are the actions, and then there's the bridging energy beneath. And they connect to each other. It becomes an equation. And I pull down from there to look deeper. Well, what's deeper into this? What's happening with this? Why is this here? Why is this here? And I write it down every time. I'm always writing. And also I question. It's all a testing, like science. To me, testing it to see if the calculation in the end comes together as a whole. If it doesn't, then something's off. You got to go back and reconfigure. It's fun. It's a lot of fun for me. I mean, I have to, Casey and I was talking about this, just through chat, just the logical side of things. It has to make sense. I mean, I am woo-woo. I do like the woo-woo side of things, but it. So do I. Yeah,
I do very much. Yeah.
I've experienced the woo-woo side of things, and I know through the testing it provides truth for me. Only through that experience, like that, you have to experience it for yourself to know. You just do. And with tarot, it, like I said, it just amazes me the patterns that come out, and I'm like, asking these questions, and the answers are right there, they're right fucking there. You're like, yeah. It's like,
I think for sure it could be, I know, I mean, well, I have my favorite tarot deck right here, Art Nouveau Tarot.
Nice.
And the symbolism is so important. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you could go with the Waite Rider deck, which is kind of the classic one, but there's so many variations that all kind of carry similar themes, but they have their own flavor, essentially. Different decks. It's kind of like, it's personal to you. And for me, tarot is a tool for introspection. As a scientific person, I consider it like a personal therapeutic journey of sorts. I don't know. I mean, like I said, kind of into the woo stuff, but like it's like I can look at it from a scientific angle too, and say, yeah, there's something to it that you bring out. Like maybe you in some way influence the cards that are drawn based on your circumstances or personality or whatever. But then it's also about how you interpret things. I don't know, it's just my personal view on that.
It's the truth. It's like, yeah, like what you were saying. I have a certain deck that every time I pull the 3 of Wands, I look at it, it's like the flux capacitor, from and then I've got, yeah, that's what I'm always looking at, like, okay, soon, okay, energy, speed's going ahead, okay, something is happening, something's coming towards me here,
You have to pull the next card at 88 miles per hour.
With the 8 of Wands, you've got these, like, wands coming at you, you're like, whoa, okay, this is happening now. But no, it's interesting because I write it down, and there's certain people that I associate with certain cards, and I'm like, yep, they're gonna contact me today. And sure enough, it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It just like helps me prepare me, for the day, what I'm gonna deal with, because I love taking an hour in the morning to talk to the universe and just see what's in the energy. Like I meditate, and it's a really sacred time. And I found it's brought so much balance to my life. It's brought so much peace, so much understanding, clarity. I will fight for that time. I will do whatever. I will get up at 3 a.m. I don't care what it takes. It's worth it to me to get that clarity in the morning. I use it for artwork. It's like the symbolism you were talking about. It's in my work. I use the artwork. Every painting is a tarot card. Okay, every painting is a tarot card. It tells a story.
Have you thought, or have you actually done this? Made your own deck?
Oh yeah. I'm actually working on one, the death card, right now, and then I've got the star that I'm working on right now. It's going to be large format. I have a show coming up in August. It's going to be sponsored by the Tacoma Ballet, and it's actually my show. I'm choosing the artists. I'm in charge of everything. Like, this is my first big gig here. So, and they want to do like more shows with me. So I'm stoked about this. This is the beginning of something big, So anyways, it's exciting.
That's awesome. Like I've never really tried tarot, but like I'm drawing some parallels to other things I've experienced in life, like whether it's trying to figure out what your dreams meant or something, or thinking about somebody and then they call on the next day or something on the phone, and back when people did that.
Well, I've had similar times where I'm getting into my car and there's a song playing in my head, and I start the car and that song is playing on the radio. Like, whoa, that's weird. That's kind of strange. Well, actually, so I was going to ask about personal experiences with spiritual or paranormal things too, but like one weird event that I had years and years ago, me and my friend were playing Monopoly, and we would always change up the rules all the time because we get bored with it. But this one time I was like, hey, watch this, I'm gonna roll a 6, and I grabbed the 2 dice and I rolled a 6, and I grabbed them again. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna roll an 11, and I rolled an 11. Like, I called every roll like 12 times in a row. Not even. Did
you take the luck virus before?
You know what you did there? You friggin' manifested that shit. You had no doubt in your mind. That's what stops the energy from provide manifestations from happening is that negativity, that doubt. It's like one drop of negative energy is like Windex in a great in a great pot of chili. It's like it destroys the whole pot. But if you believe it without a second thought, do it with passion, and then you don't even care about the outcome, it'll happen. I mean, you leave a void for the universe to fill, is what I'm saying. The universe abhors a vacuum. It needs to fill that space.
Exactly.
So,
well, the thing is, statistically, it would be impossible to call that many rolls in a row. And the thing is, it stopped when I started thinking about what was like. I'm trying to think like, oh yeah, it didn't work after that. But it was when I totally didn't think and just kind of let go and just said, it's going to be that, it's going to be that, it's going to be that. Totally was. And I use that in my daily life too. This kind of intuition, I guess, just a spidey sense that.
Remember when we were roommates and we like had $10 left and we needed to pay our $800 rent the next day, and we just went to the casino, and on the third spin, $800 comes out. We're just like, yoink.
Yeah, weren't we like backing each other too, and like, okay, time to pull it. and stuff. Oh yeah, I think there were some goons watching us too.
It's neutrality. Like that's why I get upset when people are like, stay positive, stay positive. It's like positivity is great, but it's not a state that we can maintain. You know, shit happens. But if you stay neutral for outcomes, you don't care either way, you go forward with passion no matter what, it works out. It you know, and it may not be exactly the way you think, but it comes pretty close, I find.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm a practitioner of Stoicism, so that's kind of similar. But it's like there's a time and a place for positivity and negativity, but it has to be you know, your choice, I think. And that's really what Stoicism is all about, is you decide how you respond and feel about a particular situation. And that goes into tarot too. And I think I think it can be a therapeutic or meditative tool that kind of centers you around maybe a concept and maybe illuminates something that you hadn't thought of before, perhaps. That's been my experience, at least.
Yeah. And it tells you too if the energy is right for something. Because a lot of times we try things and then they don't work out because the energy isn't right for it. You know, it's just not the right timing.
And I think we intuitively know that ourselves, that we, you know, maybe our subconscious or spiritual mind or whatever, we do know that. It's just all the noise kind of obfuscates reality or the truth or something. And maybe that's, yeah. I guess I don't know.
Not all monks up on a hill all day. We have to go to work. We have to deal with all these situations, and we have all these things going on in our minds that until you learn to like shield, you know, you're like shields up, you know, it's like it's impossible, you know. I mean, driving in traffic. I mean, geez, the drivers these days, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're so mean and aggressive at times. You know, these big F-150, 250s. It's like, I own the road, bitch. You know, you're like, whoa, you do? Okay. Yeah.
And that's where Stoicism or something similar comes in. Like, you can choose how you're going to look at the situation. It can either be a very frustrating situation, or maybe it's just humorous. Like, wow, you can laugh at how dumb everybody is. Like, wow, that was so predictable.
And I look at it and say, you know, you got that truck because you're making up for something.
Yep.
No, and then what I ended up doing, you know, because I'm having to drive on the road a lot, you know, to get to work, is I decided to turn it into something funny, like you said. And so I got a Nerf gun. And it shoots these little pellets that explode on contact. So if I almost get ran off the road, I pew, and I leave a little splooch on the window.
That's funny. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and the thing is, yeah, we have to work and do the things that we need to do to maintain our lives. But also, if you're helping other people, also that's important, that you're still dealing with potentially negativity, and how do you handle that? And it's like, for me, I need, when I'm helping somebody through something, I need to be the strong one. I got to be the one that is solid and predictable and reliable and things like that. And that takes, I guess it takes a lot. It could take courage. It takes a particular mindset. Like, if somebody's freaking out, you don't want to start freaking out too. Otherwise, you're just going to add to the energy, and that's not going to help things.
Well, would you say it's like a
balance energy when you do that, when you're helping people? You're just it's all a balancing of energy. Is you're helping them to come down to your level and to balance it. So sorry, Casey, you were going to talk.
Oh yeah, I just had a question. Would you say it's like a future telling tool, or is that kind of like a misrepresentation of how it's properly used?
It can be, but the thing is like I said before, the energy has to be right for something to happen. So you can give probabilities, but you can't you can't determine what, free will.
Yeah.
Whether you can say this person feels this way, and it looks like in the energy, it's right for them to come towards you, but that doesn't mean they will. That just means that the energy's right for it. They may be afraid, and there's more to it. Understanding the human psyche, I mean, it's a pretty advanced and complex thing, and it's just, and energy's cyclical. It's constantly changing. And so to determine something, to see that far out too, like to really see that far out, it's not the best way to do that. There's
too many variables too, as far as I'm concerned. Like, we can know quite a bit. In fact, we could perfectly predict the future if we knew the state and vector of everything in the universe, every particle, right? We would totally be able to predict the future, but that is impossible. Supercomputers, the quantum computers can't do that. And we as human beings, or, if you believe in souls and stuff like that, we tend to see things in a more macro level. So objects and events and things like that, which doesn't tell the whole story. So like you're saying, while we might be able to say, okay, well, given the current state of these entities or objects or whatever, it looks like the direction is going that way, but there's unforeseen things that might occur in between now and then that could change the course, or a decision could be made. They could be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call in sick today, and that completely alters everything.
I did have, there's been, like I said, several instances where I was able to tell what was going to happen. And the reason I tried to see what was going to happen was to find clarity, to find peace. There was an elderly lady I took care of. She ended up going into the hospital, and she was my best friend. This was last June, and I asked in a reading what was going to happen to my friend. What's going to happen? Flat out. And rarely ever is the death card ever mean death. Does it mean death? This time it did. It meant death, and it said she was going on to a better place, her energy was leaving this world, and she was happy about it. I could tell in her energy that she was ready. She was 88. She was an old energy, so I pulled the Ace of Pentacles, which is grandma on the freeway at 15 miles an hour. She's been here a long time. You gotta let her go. And that night, she died.
Wow.
So, we thought, everyone thought she was gonna live forever. It was just so sudden. She ended up going in the hospital, and I just knew, and I needed confirmation. And I feel like that confirmation made me less emotional. I mean, not that I wasn't, I was bawling my eyes out, but it prepared me for that call that I was going to get later that evening. And it helped me to heal and to cope with it, knowing that she was happy about it.
I had a similar but slightly different take on an experience like that. Right around the time I was 19 or something, I was about to marry somebody who was Wiccan, and so of course I was like already on my way to like full-blown atheism from Catholicism. So along the path, I'm like, try new things or whatever. And so I got into the like spells or whatever, which now I see really no difference between spells, prayers, meditation. I think it's all kind of the same thing with a different name. But my grandpa was dying of Alzheimer's, and he was like, we went to visit him, and he was having a particularly bad experience, and you could tell he was just in pain and confused and everything. And so I, had gone to crystal voyage and got myself a special candle, of course. And so I lit that candle and just had some intentions to like remove his pain. At the exact same time I was doing that, happened to pass away. I ended up feeling guilt. I was like, oh shit, I killed Grandma. Like, but I mean, like, eventually, of course, I came to terms with that. And, you know, but, you know, I'm kind of like Eeyore. It's probably going to rain. I have that tendency to go right to the
negative aspect. Maybe you released him from pain.
Yeah.
You know,
Good point.
That's actually positive. That's the thing I love about tarot too, or any of these divination tools, is being able to see multiple sides to something. You know, because I'm not a rainbow fairy tarot person. I get the dark. Like, I actually love the dark aspects, because that's our shadow. Our shadow is like really who we are behind the scenes here. That's why we do these weird things that we do that we don't understand. And it's until we deal with it and get it in the light, like, we can't fix, you know, the external. We can't get into these other things, you know. And so I embrace it. You know, and through tarot, it's you do that. And then like, I've had times where I've read for people and I was like, man, like, they went away feeling worse. But it was the truth. They found the truth. They were like, no, I needed to hear this. You know, this was, and it wasn't even exactly the question they were asking, but it was their soul speaking, wanting to know the answer, because until they addressed this issue, the other thing could not get addressed. The other thing could not be worked out.
Well, exactly, because we can't really, you know, continue our journey if there's a blockade where we're not accepting something that we have to deal with or something, come to terms with. And yeah, because we are complex beings, and the dark is a part of life, really. The light and dark, the whole yin yang thing, like, yeah, that's how things are. There's always positive and there's negative, or light and dark, or whatever you want to call it. Opposing forces, I suppose you could say. In electricity or magnetism, it's the same thing. The positive terminal in the battery and the negative terminal. Like, if you didn't have one of those, well, there's no electron flow. Circuit isn't going to do diddly shit. So, you know,
I do love tying science into stuff like this, because that's how my mind is built. And I mean, like, I'm the guy that the first time I tried smoking pot, I was taking notes on my behavioral changes, my mental capacity and stuff. And I was like, oh, and now I'm going to try this stuff sober and see, you know. I was like building graphs and stuff. I'm a nerd. But, you know,
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, it helps us learn, you know, taking notes, you know, charts, all of that.
Yeah, just because there could be a scientific explanation doesn't mean that it's also not like a spiritually grounded phenomenon, right? Like, there might actually be, well, I'm actually certain there is a scientific explanation for everything, because it's the real physical world. You know, we have to operate under certain rules, but we just don't all know all the answers yet. And that's the fun part.
Exactly.
Thinking about this stuff, finding out.
And yeah, it's that whole exploration of the world around us, and exploration of our soul or our being, whatever it might be. And I think there's still room within science for spirituality. It's just like meditation in a way, is that's valid. It's part of our, like, just because, well, it's like even the placebo effect and things like that. Mind over matter, essentially. That, yeah, I don't know. I had a thought, but I completely lost it.
Well, it's true what you were just saying. You know, my lab test results for my thyroid, because I've got Hashimoto's and lupus. I was diagnosed with lupus last year. My antibodies went down. for my thyroid when I started meditating.
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, hey, maybe, I don't know. I can't say for sure. I'm not, but these things make sense to me. It's proof enough for me,
Meditation is how I got through college. Like, I was really struggling, really on the verge of not doing so well, and then I got rid of my smartphone and started meditating, and instantly was getting like A's and stuff like that. So it really helps. It makes
for health in general too. How many like ailments that we suffer are either caused by or exacerbated by hypertension and stress and stuff. I would say almost all of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
But you can't really, it's stress. You're constantly under, before we were being, chased by, bears and things, but now we are being chased by F-250s, and so
or a bill that's due that you just don't have the money for and stuff.
And
exactly.
hey, bears will kill you. So I just have the reminder right there.
Yeah, and they still exist. They're out there. Cougars too. That's another dangerous one. Yeah. Well, and there, stress, and I think having a tool, something like tarot or whatever your thing is, to kind of stay grounded while you're dealing with things, because there's a good kind of stress, right? Like playing difficult video games. That's super stressful, but it's a challenge, and taking on a challenge. If you twist your perspective from whatever this is the stoic in me talking. If you twist your perspective to take something that is overwhelming and turn it into a challenge, that like, oh, hey, this is like a video game. In fact, I kind of see life almost as a game, actually. There's bosses you have to deal with, and there's points, and there's different levels, and it keeps getting more difficult as you're going, but your skills that you've learned in the earlier levels you can apply to the future. Like it, yeah. I mean that makes life so much more interesting and colorful. And
it is. There's people that learn how to get out of everything. It's their game. It's how to get out of everything.
Yeah. And
get out of that wedding they don't want to be at, or get out of that. It's their game. Mm-hmm. That's their game.
Yep. And I think spiritual endeavors or hobbies or interests or whatever, those can be part of that tapestry of life that makes it so interesting. I mean, sure, we could be all like homogenous, scientifically minded beings that like Vulcans or something that never experience any kind of emotional outbursts or fear or anything. But I think it's that kind of that cycle and the variation of personalities and experiences that makes life kind of interesting. The challenges.
We're not all Spock, we eventually, any emotion that is repressed is going to come out, I mean, it just, and everyone has emotions. I don't care, if you're, who you are. We all do, and we all, we just all react differently, and have a different way of processing information, But yeah, it's just what you're saying. So.
Oh, I'm thinking back to something you'd said earlier. That person had old energy. Now, what do you think about reincarnation?
I believe that energy never dies. It's forever. In fact, so weird. This is going to sound crazy. About 60 days later after she died, I would go on these walks, and this beautiful dragonfly, giant, landed right in front of me and just stared at me. And I could feel her energy on it.
Huh.
And I was like, Thelma? I was like, I was like, is anybody around? No. Elma, is that you? I just, I could feel her off of that dragonfly, and I don't know. To say I would know would be a lie, because I don't know. But I believe I've lived here before. I believe I've experienced, there's people that I've known forever that I'm like, I get this weird feeling that I can't even describe it, but I know energies that I've dealt with before, but I've never met them. Like, I've never freaking met them.
I think everybody's had an experience where you encounter a random person and it's like you've known them your whole life, essentially. Like, wait, what?
Almost all of my meaningful relationships are...
They're soulmates. Yeah, I believe they're soul connections. We have soul connections to them. And so to say that that's, to say that doesn't, can't come into the equation of overall that, that's one sign that maybe that's a possibility,
Well, have you ever read Flatland?
No.
I highly recommend it. It's basically sort of it's an allegorical tale, but it essentially is talking about these two-dimensional beings who are visited by a three-dimensional being, and it rocks their world, essentially. And the three-dimensional being takes the two-dimensional being out and shows them three dimensions. And that, to me, we can extend that to some other dimension, the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, or whatever.
Wait, and you're describing the music video for Take On Me, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, and maybe what we see here is only a small sliver of what is actually here. That souls, or maybe our consciousness, is way bigger than just this meat bag that we inhabit right now. That's just like the finger of our actual selves poking into the three-dimensional world, I guess. And that's why I think maybe reincarnation is totally a thing. There's actually, so speaking from like a scientific standpoint or an evidence-based standpoint, there are quite a few cases that provide some pretty compelling evidence of that. Like, almost impossible to explain if it weren't for reincarnation. That there are a few cases. They're worth looking up, actually.
Oh, definitely. And I do believe in it. I believe that this is not, in fact, it's all a learning experience. We're here to learn different lessons. Mm-hmm. Some of us deep empathy, some of us, it just depends. And whether we learn it or not, it's like a game, like you were saying. You'll have to repeat what you didn't learn in this game. And you'll have to come up with, there'll be different situations, different things, but, until you master it, you're not going to the next level. That's that world card. Yeah. That's that you're on to the next level and back to the Fool on a new journey, so, but you got to pass judgment first, in order to get to the world.
Well, and it ties in also with simulation theory, that if this is all a simulation, these challenges we're faced with are intentional. Or maybe we are, I don't know, some higher level beings from another dimension or something, and we created this artificial universe to explore and grow and learn some things that maybe we couldn't figure out in the universe we regularly inhabit. Or maybe we got to the end of time and space and we were like, this is boring. Okay, well, let's craft something that is not boring.
Or it could be that we're all just bubbles that kind of like mesh from time to time, and our perceptions are actually played out universes,
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
And that would be why everyone's like, no, that's not how it happened.
I thought we were all like a monolith broken into pieces in our own experiences, but we're all generally connected in a way, and we are, our consciousness is connected. I mean, that's why you're saying, thinking of someone and then they call, you know, I mean, if there wasn't a connection there, how is that even possible? You know, there's a connection happening. You know, it's an intuition, it's a feeling that turns to a thought and then you forget about it. And then it ends up, you gotta remember the step of forgetting about it, because if you're thinking about it, like you said with the dice, it ruins it all, you know, but
exactly.
It's such a strange phenomena. I love it.
And some people would chalk it up to say, oh, it's just a coincidence and stuff. But, you know, I've experienced so many unlikely coincidences that I don't know. Some of them are just too
but that's what I was talking about with, like, there can be a scientific explanation for things. Like, I've read a book before where it was like, well, everyone's had this thing where you think about someone and they call, but those are the times that stand out. You know, how many times have you thought about that person and they didn't call? And it's like, well, yeah, that's true. But what if that's just the mechanism by which, you know, this time it was strong enough that it worked, you know? Because, yeah, like, there is an explanation for everything. And sometimes if you're only looking at it's the forest for the trees saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just look at the parts and you're going to kind of miss the big picture.
Exactly.
But why, if you think too hard about it, would it not work? Like, what's going on?
Ego is getting involved. You're trying to manipulate an outcome. You're, you know, subconsciously, I would think, or I mean, even, you know, consciously, but you're trying to manipulate an outcome. You're not staying neutral. And you're, you know, like I said, the universe abhors a vacuum. You need to leave space for that thing to happen, because if you're thinking about it, you're not leaving space. You're actually projecting an outcome, and it's not up to you.
I would say too that the subconscious mind is it's sort of like reactive, I suppose, whereas the conscious mind is proactive. So the subconscious mind is collecting information and sort of aggregating it into certain forms, whereas your conscious mind is deliberate. You choose, oh yeah, I'm going to put my shoes on right now. I'm going to go to the store and buy something or whatever, that kind of thing. It's deliberate. So when your conscious mind is in charge, it isn't basically even connected with that sort of background information system that your subconscious mind is tapped into, I suppose. I don't know. That's my explanation for that.
Like a radio station, you know, if you're out of the area of you're not going to be able to tune into it. But if you are close enough, or what, you can tune into that radio station. Mm-hmm. And that's what energy is like. It's like, and reading energy and intuition. It's like tuning into a radio station, and it's not like a freaking, you know, broadcast that's in your face. It's very low frequency. It's very, very, very quiet, you know, and you have to really listen. It's not something that'll just, you know, punch you in the face or so. No, it's like it's a light tap on the shoulder.
I like the radio analogy, and the technology, our development of technology has led us to understand so many things. And, you know, the more I learn about things, the more magical the universe seems. Like when I was a kid, I believed, like, oh yeah, there's God and there's Jesus and this and that, and it seemed magical at the time. But now, the more I learn, the more mystical and magical the universe appears. It's just, it's amazing. And it reminds me of an episode from Babylon 5 with the techno mages, where the commander of Babylon 5 is talking to one of the techno mages and kind of saying, like, oh, you know, if we went back in time and showed all this technology to people in the past, they'd consider it magic. And the techno mage is like, perhaps it is magic, and went on to say this really awesome statement about it. But it is magic. We're performing magic all the time, and it's awesome.
Speaking of the religious background, Rachel, you had mentioned to me when we were chatting that your dad is a pastor or was a pastor.
He was a pastor. Yeah,
is there any kind of contention with the tarot stuff, or do you kind of
talk about it? Because if there's not an understanding, then it's just seen as some kind of magic tool that's, against the Bible or what, and it's not looked at into as, well, no. I mean, Carl Jung got into archetypes and the tarot and wrote about, I mean, it's psychology. It's psychology, it's learning about yourself through it. I've learned way more through tarot about myself than the Bible. And that's just a personal thing. I'm not saying, people, I believe the Bible is, it can be an interesting, it's a way to look at energy, how energy works. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, or I should say, do unto others as they would like done unto them. I should say, it sounds just a lot better.
Exactly.
How I want them to be. No, how they want. So, but
and that comes back to empathy and understanding, trying to comprehend where somebody else is coming from, put yourself in their shoes before you pass judgment.
And Jesus was a wonderful man. I mean, he was the ultimate example of kindness and how we should be as people, thinking of others, putting others first, and he didn't care about, he wasn't someone full of pretense and wanting to be, this whatever. I mean, he was, well, I am the son of God, but he was like,
delusions of grandeur, anybody?
I was gonna say he was low man on the pole, but at the same time it's like, no, well, he did claim to be the son of God, and all these things. But we all
I think even if we don't accept, if you don't accept that all those stories are factual, I think there's a good message to be gleaned out of that, out of many religious texts.
You can find truth in anything that resonates. There is truth in anything that resonates. The Quran, any of those books, they're brilliant stories.
And they're also part of our human experience. They're a component, a major component. And that should be respected in that, I suppose.
The thing I would caution people. The thing I would caution people to be wary of with things like the Bible or the Quran, things with specific written words and stuff, and these types of people that find every answer in the Bible, for instance. How many tools in your garage do everything, right? There might be plenty of answers that the Bible is perfect for. And there's probably some that you would not use the Bible. Please don't. Stoning gay people to death. Why is that in there? Your conscious mind, your empathetic soul should be maybe I'll find a different tool, to guide me. Just exercise a little bit of critical thinking in your spirituality, and maybe we'll have a better world.
I like the idea, the analogy of tools, and I have a lot of tools, and a lot of times I have tools so that I can use them to help others. Most of the time people come to me with a car problem or something that needs to be repaired, and they're like, hey, do you have and I say, yep, because I probably have that tool. And you're right, you apply the correct tool to the circumstances that it applies to it.
You did not have BMW special tool number 73, but you did successfully use a paperclip.
Yep. So in a way, I had that tool, and that's adaptability too. Things can be adapted to situations where they weren't designed to be adapted to. Yeah.
The only time I have a problem really with it is when someone tries to get me to believe what they believe, or try to put fear into me. Like, for instance, telling me I'm going to a place that they've never been to, which is hell. I mean, okay, once you've been there, yeah, you tell me, you give me a call. We'll chat,
Yep.
you know, but fear, anything based in fear I don't subscribe to, you know. If it's fear-based, it's bullshit. Because even in the Bible, it says perfect love casts away all fear, you know, and there's no perfect love, but what is it? What is that verse? It says, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love and power and a sound mind. Okay, is that having a sound mind to be afraid of a place you've never been to? No, that's not, I mean, seriously. So I know the verses, I know the shtick, you know, all this stuff, you know, but it's the fear aspect that I always had a problem with that. And growing up, it was a real fight. It was a real internal struggle until I finally read this book, The Outsider's Test of Faith. And it basically talks about, it was written by an atheist, and he said basically to test your own faith before you start judging other people's faiths and their beliefs. Test your own beliefs. Scientifically test them. And if they, you know, have the burden of proof, then go for it. But if they don't, then you need to start really seeing what you do believe. And
I think faith can be a powerful force for togetherness and comfort, bringing people together, but it can also be equally powerful as a tool for manipulating others. And that's the danger of the and anything really. The occult and stuff too. How many times have people conned people using faith in the occult or faith in religious things, which I honestly, I don't really see much difference between the two.
No, there isn't really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of religious thinking in world politics, for instance, you know, like where, you know, a lot of it doesn't really involve higher level thinking. It's just leading people with fear. And yeah, like stuff like that is like, I mean, for me, my journey into like the skeptical direction had a lot to do with this sort of a format. Like I would sit with friends in the car down on Ruston Way and just talk about like the universe and philosophy and thinking like, what if it's this? What if it's that? You know, being completely open to any explanation and just talking it through. And I think that's like a natural evolution of like philosophy, let's say.
Because nobody really has all the answers. Even a bunch of people don't have all the answers. I mean, we don't have all the answers.
It's all about the journey.
Well, yeah, go back in time 1,000 years, and people thought things were a certain way, and now we know, oh no, they're not that way, they're this way. But go 1,000 years in the future, and we're going to look like the fools, the ones that don't understand anything. So yeah.
I even had this discussion with my roommate, you know, that he goes to church and does the thing, but I told him, I said, you need to have your own filter in what you're hearing. Filter in what's good, out what doesn't make sense to you, or question or test it.
Question it.
Yeah.
I said, anybody that tells you they know is lying to you. They're a fucking liar.
They're lying, and they're also trying to sell you something in a lot of cases.
Exactly. You know, and I said somebody that's honest is going to say, I don't know, but this works for me. This seems to work for me. But let's test it together.
Yeah. And
let's see, you know, that's that state of openness that you were speaking of, you know, that in the church I remember saying to someone, do you ever think we just made the devil up so we had someone to blame for our own bad behavior? And I was looked down on for questioning that. Like, no, there is a devil, and he's making us do this. There's the checkbook demon, makes you write bad checks.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you want to control people, there always has to be a boogeyman. Read 1984 for that. And
Descartes' evil demon theory, I mean?
Yeah.
Seriously. No, we all have that's when, it's like, no, it's early on. I saw that shadow side. I saw, no, I won't subscribe to that because I know it's me that's choosing to do this. It's not you. It's not somebody else tempting me. I mean, no. It's because I clearly want to do this.
Well, one thing too is it's like it doesn't benefit humanity for us to be adversarial with each other based on our differences. That's what the con artists want, because they can maintain control. What we need is to kind of build this vision of all humanity exploring together. That, hey, we're all on this mission to figure things out, and maybe this group or person is right, maybe they're not, maybe they're kind of right. I mean, I believe in fuzzy logic and probabilistic analysis and things, and it's like, well, somebody could be somewhat correct and somewhat incorrect or whatever. Like, we don't really know until we actually can prove something. And
the answer to something isn't usually just yes or no. Like, there's a series of things that you have to prove or provide or whatever, and you could be wrong about one or two of those things and right about the rest.
Well, and answers to questions are often much more complex than a binary answer. And that's something that I think our civilization tends to push on people, is this binary thinking. Like, oh, you're either for us or you're with the terrorists or something like that. Like, oh yeah, you only have two choices. You're either with the church or you're with the devil. Like, what? How? That doesn't make any sense. That's arbitrarily defined. That's not how nature works. Nature does not work that way.
I would argue to say that I don't even think Jesus would say something that ridiculous. I mean, the person that you worship and say is the son. I mean, would not even go there. He wouldn't be against gay people. He wouldn't be. He would sit with them and enjoy their beauty. It's ridiculous.
The one thing I never hear anyone point out about things that Jesus said was that he spoke in if statements. Like, if you do this, this could happen. Like, this is how you find salvation. This is what worked for me, whatever. It was never like, you must, or else, like, all that stuff is Old Testament, like, thou shalt not this and thou shalt not that, and, like, death and destruction and mayhem, and then all of a sudden it went hippie and Buddhist, like.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the way to analyze the universe and find answers to things is not to state facts or make decrees, but to ask questions. Ask a question. Like, that's what we need to be doing more and more, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can close more chapters through understanding. And how do you come to understanding? Is you question, and that's how you find answers. And yes, there are some things that don't have answers. You're not meant to find answers to, and that's okay. That's part of the mystery,
In fact,
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. The mystery is part of what makes life really fascinating. If we knew everything, kind of like I was talking about the simulation theory. Oh yeah, we've gotten to the end of time and space, and we know all there is to know. Well, what now? There has to be things
Fine.
that we can't solve, problems we cannot solve. That
Create more problems to solve, believe me, as humans. Create more problems to solve if they were all solved.
if either of you have ever read a scientific paper and you get to the conclusion section, there's always another question, if not the whole thing. But like the whole thing sometimes it's just like, we still don't know this and that and this, and we have to further investigate that. You know, like seldom do you find anything that's like, all the evidence pointed to this, you know. And that's how life is, you know. Like you don't have all these binary answers all the time. Like, that's not nature. No. I mean, nature can't really evolve if you only have two choices.
No.
If you think about it, like there's either a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it. Well, there's lots of right ways and a shit ton of wrong ways to do it. You know, like it's never binary.
And there really is. I know this sounds bad, but I can't really say that there is necessarily a wrong way. It's just a bad thing consequence will happen because of it. You know, there's really no right and wrong, really, if you think about it. But I mean,
which is all relative too.
In people's heads, that's how I think. I mean, yes, there is clear that is not a good thing to do. You know, it's a terrible way to approach that situation. But no, I mean, really, it's just our actions are. You know, it's just what the consequences to that choice.
So
you know.
There's an old adage in programming. If it looks right, it is right. Because there's a lot of programmers, these old timers that are like, oh, this is a procedure, this is standard protocol for how you do things. It doesn't matter how you get there. It matters that you get the product that you're aiming for, essentially. And you know, I think there's certain things that human civilization can agree are a handful of things are generally wrong in most situations. But when it comes to the day-to-day, like how you go about your day, what your philosophy is in life, what your personal tastes are, there's no right or wrong. It's a probabilistic thing. It's all fuzzy. And just because the majority of people don't like pineapple on pizza doesn't mean that you're wrong for loving pineapple on pizza. That's the thing.
Yeah. So which true. Is actually pretty awesome, by the way. It is. You know, like, yeah, it's all relative because, you know, one of the greatest examples, well, maybe I should choose a different word. One of the most poignant examples in history is World War II. Had somebody gone back in time and assassinated Hitler before that, there would be a score of medical advancements that we may have never come across because of all those like horrible experiments that they did.
Well, and the war itself, because it was so people were desperate, right? They did a bunch of things. Computers probably wouldn't have been a thing. Space travel would have been probably a century away because of that. Remote control. I mean, all kinds of technology. Also
important to remember, who's to say we wouldn't have been better off without all these things, you know? So
this is true, but then again, you take out Hitler, maybe there was another Hitler waiting in the wings that was way worse than Hitler, that it could have been far worse. We'd all be speaking German now, even in the US. So it's like, you never.
Let me tell you, that's harder than it sounds.
Schwierig.
I'm just keeping my mouth shut because I'm very much German, so yeah, I'm not very proud of that time in history.
Well, keep in mind,
like the country as a whole has done very well to the history. Like they are kind of leading the charge in morality and stuff like that.
They were desperate. Well, they were desperate, and desperate people do some pretty crazy, shitty things, and are influenced a lot easier by crazy, shitty people.
And that's something that we should be keeping in mind, that it could happen anytime. The Antichrist could emerge whenever. And it's also important to keep in mind, too, that it wasn't Germany that did that. There were a lot of people in Germany. The people who did the bad stuff were not really a substantial proportion of the population. And that's how almost everything happens. It's just borders are completely arbitrary lines drawn on a map. There's just, all it is people living in a space. Maybe they speak
I 100% agree with that, but I do still think it's right that Germany collectively as a country is working to right that wrong on behalf of the few horrible people that did that, because if not them, who else? I agree. In that manner, I can kind of justify Sins of the Father, reactionary, rehabilitative efforts.
I agree, but that my point really is like maybe a message for the future, that if something ever happens in the future,
but their actions are that message,
Yeah, but we can't blame all the people who happen to reside within a border for a small amount of people. That's like for the future. I mean, right. Yeah, in the past, obviously, retrospectively, we're going back and looking at things and trying to correct for mistakes in the past. But it's important. Well, like we can speak to, say, like 9/11 in the U.S., where everybody hated all Arabs. Well, they didn't really hate people, but they kind of blamed all these people, like, oh my God, they're nations of terrorists. It's like, no, they're not.
It's always a knee-jerk response, and like it's always this hindsight, like, oh well, I would have been Superman, but it's like, would you, like, if you were on the plane and like somebody pulled out a box knife, you don't know what they're going to do, or like you're making all these super fast calculations in your head, like, maybe they just want money, blah blah blah, like, you have no idea what the end game is,
Well, especially going back, like, at the time, historically, the plane hijackers, they would
safely land.
Yeah, they wanted to free some people that were in prison or something, or I don't know, get some money. It was some kind of political thing or whatever. It wasn't about killing a bunch of people. I think
it all just comes back down to fear. It's all fear, all of it. The fear. It's just all fear-based thinking. It comes from, whether it's religion, whether it's Germany and the Nazis with all of it. It's fear. And fear. What people think the opposite of love is hate, right? It's not. It's fear. Fear is the opposite of love. Okay, if we're thinking in love, we wouldn't be doing these shitty things. It goes back to what I said about the Bible. A perfect love casts away all fear. It's fear that makes us do these things. And it is my opinion. I shouldn't say it is, because then I'm speaking like, the people that say they know everything, and I don't. I'm just saying that it's my thoughts that it's based in fear. And it's all of it. It's fear of lack, fear of, whatever it may be. And
I think the seed of the tree of fear is ignorance. That's where it comes from, because that can be played on by con artists all around to get people to behave the way, follow their lead, essentially.
Well, if you're not secure in yourself, you'll follow anyone.
Yeah.
You'll be ignorant. I mean, no matter what. If you don't have some kind of a boundaries or direction for yourself, I mean, it's easily to get derailed. Yeah. It's easy. And to believe what people tell you about yourself. or about things, and not to question,
Yep. And that's where, well, the antidote for ignorance is learning, exploring, things like that. And sharing information. That's really important. I don't like the idea of there being secret information. That's wrong. Like we need to work together to understand everything we can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you can make the world a better place, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Creating balance.
I wanted to ask a question about your art, somewhat related to tarot, to kind of bring things back to the initial topic. You had mentioned you really appreciate the dark side, and one thing I noticed was like your use of shadows and darkness in those pieces behind you, for instance. And I that's something I really noticed. And Eric, I don't remember if I told you this, but yeah, when I began talking to Rachel about like maybe doing a show on tarot, I was like, this art's so cool. Like, I kind of want to write a song based on it, so I did. And when I listened back to the song, I'm like, I totally like went into these minor chords, and it's like kind of dark sounding, but like, that actually kind of fits, because there's all that shadow, but like it's still, I mean, that's kind of just my general writing style in anyway. But like, tell me about like how you manifest that darkness and turn it into something that's like, let's say, neutral.
Well, I'll tell you, with a recent piece I'm working on, it's called The Tail Eater, and it's about the Ouroboros. And Ouroboros is the snake that's eating its own tail in alchemy. But I saw it as a protector or a guardian while you do the work, the inner work. And I was reading in alchemy, you feed it your woes, and it turns your woes into gems. It transmutes them into gems. So you're dark, you're blasphemous, you're all the bullshit, anything. You feed it to him so that he can change it into something better for yourself, and something, it makes you aware so that you change it to something, it becomes a strength as opposed to a weakness. And so that's one example of a painting that I'm working on, that just through, like, I do these energy readings and it got a billion ideas. They just come up and I have to keep writing them down, and some of them, later on I look at it, I'm like, nah, that's not going to work for the painting, or whatever, but it was a nice thought. But no, they come to me like that now. And that's the exploring the dark aspect. So the tail eater, he's there's a snake on her and he's looking at you, and then there's the snake around her neck, that's the figure 8 snake, eating its tail. And she's in meditation, so he's guarding her, providing her the space to do the inner work in order to change, in order to become enlightened. So that's just one concept that I've done and come up with, that should be awesome. Finishing for the next show. And then I just finished recently the Amaterasu painting. She, in Japanese mythology, is the goddess of the sun, and then there's also a crow in it, which is Yatagarasu, which is her messenger crow, and she sends him to inform people, for divine guidance and things like that. She sent the crow to Emperor Jimmu while he was stuck in enemy territory, and its legend says that the crow led him to victory, and he became the first emperor in Japan. So yeah, there's just all these. I love myths, I love legend, I love which they're the same thing really, but alchemy. I love studying, history and all of these different things and seeing how they're connected and how I can turn them into a piece that goes deeper. I can't just paint just a portrait or a dog portrait anymore. I mean, it's like, not that I don't like doing, if the dog has passed away, I'm compelled, I want to paint it. Or if the person has passed away, it's, I want to paint that, because that's the closest thing I can do with my magic to bring them back to life. But if it's just like, I want a family portrait or something like that, it's like, nah, say that for the next guy.
Yeah.
I'm a little, it's got to be something deeper, not that that's not deep, and that's is meaningful for them, but for me, like my show that I'm doing, I decided to call it Thresholds to Elsewhere, an Initiation into the Unknown. And so what we're going to have is a lot of different spiritual art, a lot of different just art that shows the journey of going to this elsewhere in order to create these imaginary, narratives. And so, yeah, that's I'm stoked for it. I'm so excited.
Where and when is that again?
It's going to be August 10th, and it's at the Merlino Art Center in Tacoma. Okay. They have a giant ballroom, and we get to use their ballroom to show off our work, and Karina Bakery is going to cater for it. There'll be wine. There's going to be the Tacoma Youth Symphony playing on stage. Wow. Yeah, it's a dream come true. Really is.
You should talk them into playing some of our music.
Totally. Well, the thing is, I was thinking music, like I had call me, it was all electronic, and different. I can play whatever music I want for it and stuff, but they said as far as live music, if I wanted the youth symphony, and I was like, a violin and cello player, that would be nice, but at the same time, I had State Azure, I had Stellar Drone and all these different things picked out. Sal and I are going to build a portal for the entrance, so you feel like you're going into the thresholds to elsewhere, and so yeah, I'm stoked.
Have you been to any of the Meow Wolf installations?
I have heard stories about, but I've never been to one, and yeah, I've got to go. I know.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Just the amount of detail. I've only been to the Vegas one, but I think the original one might be in Arizona or something, and then Colorado has one. I'm not sure where else, but super cool, very cool. Like themed rooms and secret passageways that go to other areas of the building, and it's awesome. And that when you just said a portal, I was like, oh, that reminds me of the owl.
I will definitely do everything I can to attend that.
I'll give you all the information and keep you posted. I'll start posting on Facebook soon too. Once I get everything solidified, the date and everything solidified, we got that. But I'm actually working on a painting for the flyer, and then and trying to get the artists to, hey, okay, we doing this? No, I've got 8 of them so far, so that should be enough, if I can't, if I don't find anybody else. But no, I want to up the level. I shouldn't say it like that. I want to up, I just want to bring a different way of thinking, way of creating, and to the Tacoma area. I want it to be a different type of show than your average Tacoma show that I've seen. you know.
Well, I can say as a lifelong resident of Tacoma that Tacoma is way more cool than Seattle is. Seattle's very pretentious, but Tacoma, oh my God, the culture in Tacoma is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of awesome people here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of like diversity and expression and stuff like that. Like the music scene is awesome, the art scene is awesome. Like, you know, there's enough nightlife that, you know, if that's your thing, you can have that too. Like, it really is like a great play. I do miss it sometimes, but Germany's awesome too. So
I think everywhere has its thing.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about Tacoma is it's generally unpretentious about itself, unlike Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle is full of itself. In fact, I had this song idea, the title of which was going to be called "There's Nothing South of Seattle." But yeah, oh man, that'll be a cool event. I can't wait.
Definitely, and in the future, they want me to do more shows, and if that's the case, I would love to have you guys play for them. I mean, if you're available, you know, whatever your availability is or whatever.
Yeah, we'll just bust out Harmony of Theory.
So we've never played live. Like the stuff we do is all like tracked, and you know.
That's okay too, though. Like just playing music itself, that's fine too. You know,
Well, yeah,
It doesn't have to
we're
be
more
like crazy performance.
Yeah, we're more songwriters than we are performers.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I'm
You'd
not.
have to be like
I get
DJ
it.
Eric and MC Casey, you know.
At heart, I'm a hermit. You know, it's like I don't like mixing with a lot of other energies out there. You know, I just like, you know, I find that the inner world can be a lot more rich, you know, and satisfying at times. I mean, not always, but no, a rich inner world. I mean, you can travel in your mind. You don't even need.
Well, go LeVar Burton and Reading Rainbow, right? You could basically, travel the entire universe in your mind and beyond. There's probably a lot more than we could possibly fathom out there. And one single person can explore untold reaches of the cosmos and beyond, just in themselves. And I don't know. I'm waxing philosophical.
I would even go as far as, you know, astrally. I mean, I'm gonna get spiritual again. You know, it's like seriously, you want to travel the universe. That's you can't do it like physically necessarily, but there is another way you can test it and try.
And explore the imagination too. That's a whole other angle. So which is probably even.
There's some other episodes we've done that are very like metaphysical. You know, like we talked about lucid dreaming. We've talked about like where love goes when you die, like stuff like that. Like that stuff is on another level where like you can never really stop the conversation. Like you just put it on pause because you just don't find the answer, you know, like ever. And that's the fun part, you know.
Going back to before, that like having the answers might actually be kind of a little disappointing. The mystery is far more interesting than the truth.
Yeah,
for a lot of things.
Yep. Well, like my dog, when I wrap its toy in a blanket and it like, you know, like tears it open and it finds the toy too soon, it like tries to hide it again. No, that was too easy. And that's true. You know, like you gotta challenge yourself a little bit.
And that's what makes life interesting, are the challenges and overcoming the challenges. There's so many build projects where, you know, I spent weeks or months struggling and teaching myself how to do things just to be able to put something together, and then there's nothing more satisfying than sitting back and being like, wow, I made that. That's awesome. Like, when I started the project, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And now like my car project, the Armadillo, I didn't know how to weld when I started that project. I taught myself how to weld. I taught myself metalworking and all kinds of different things. Replacing the dashboard or the gauge cluster with a computer display, and writing software and figuring out how to connect the various sensors in the car to that computer.
Yeah, Rachel, you have to see this car someday. It has a flux.
I do. Nice. The doors go up and.
No, I wish. It's not a DeLorean. It's a Toyota Supra, but close enough. Yeah. And I just do stuff like that just to do it. Just to say to myself, like, hey, wow, you've accomplished something. And that's fun. We should all challenge ourselves with things like that, like impossible projects. Like, if you look at something and think, hey, I can't, there's no way I could do that. No, take it on, make it happen.
Usually that's a sign that you should do it. Like if you ever feel that feeling of like, I don't know, it's usually like, yeah, you should. I'm not saying, you should jump off a cliff or anything, but I mean, it's just like.
No, but a challenge to yourself, a personal challenge. Like my current thing is sailboat stuff. Like buying and living on a sail. Well, I already have a sailboat, but I want to get a bigger one and travel the world on it. And I really don't know a whole lot about sailing. In fact, I can't even swim really. Well,
you better get good at sailing.
Yeah. Well, I'll figure it out. That's the thing. Like intuition, you can figure out quite well, especially when faced with a challenge where you have to sort something out or die. Well, you're going to figure out really quick how it's going to work. And yeah, it'll be fun.
That's awesome. I love it.
Rachel, do you know if there's ever been an art exhibit where there's been like a little button you can push and it plays like a short musical piece that accompanies the visual art?
No, but I do know that there are pieces that are inspired by music, like certain songs. Definitely. There's I'm trying to think of one that I can give an example of, but no, I mean, a lot of people design artwork and create artwork that is it's created around a song or something, a poem. I mean, it's music is poetry to me anyways. It's just audio, what is the word I'm looking for? It's just a different type of poetry, but it's all poetry, it's all art, it's all part of the expression. Yeah.
So now maybe it's possible I might have dreamt this in a fever dream when I was a kid. But I remember when I was probably a very young teenager going to some place somewhere. I don't remember where. But there was an exhibit of sculpture, a bunch of different rooms. You'd go from room to room, and they all sort of had their own kind of ambiance. And there was like sound kind of textures playing, or maybe music in each room. And so you'd kind of go in there and you were left sort of standing, observing this piece that somebody had built, and there was some sound going on around, and then you move on to the next thing, and it was a little bit different. So different colors, different shapes, different sounds, all sort of coming together. That I'd love to recreate something like that, honestly, because I don't know if you know, but I do some art here and there. And it'd be so cool to recreate that, to kind of, rather than just a gallery of stuff on a wall that people look at and talk about, it'd be like a personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're
because you're conveying an even deeper emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's the feeling of the music and the piece, so it's not just visual. It becomes both for you. It's a much more powerful kick.
Yeah.
I like the geometric stuff that you do, like that, like lines and colors and just the way they all come together is like super cool. There's like an 80s vibe to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like that stuff. That's so deeply personal to me. And people look at that and they're like, it's just simple geometry. But well, no, there's a deliberate choice in shape and angle and color and a lot of the things that I do that are hand painted very, very carefully with tiny brushes. In fact, I painted the living room with a little brush about that big 3 times over with no masking, just to get it to look the way that I wanted it to look.
Perfectionist.
Yeah. And that's an expression too.
How it all is.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. Everything from the clothes we wear or whatever. I mean, depending, some of us, we don't care so much for those things, but yeah, it's all an expression.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean,
oh man, I will definitely. I'll be there.
Nice.
I'll make it happen.
Awesome.
Can't wait to see it.
With your permission, we could showcase some of your art pieces during the song on the way out.
Of course.
Create our own like virtual art / music display. I think that would be pretty sweet. Yeah, so we've gone on quite a while.
Yeah, we have.
We will definitely have to do this again. This has been a really good conversation.
This is great. I love getting into all these different theories and different things. I could talk about this stuff for hours. I'm like even though I'm a hermit, I love talking psychology. All these things you guys are awesome. I love this stuff. So anytime.
Well, and we have a really unique way of sort of morphing one topic into another and then kind of coming back to it. And it all rolls. It's like all rolled up into the same ball, essentially. And that's how conversations ought to be, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and often our conversations are so like interconnected, and we're all like, how did we get way over here? But everything kind of blends together and makes sense when you see it through. So that's very telling about the universe, I think.
Yeah.
In general.
It's all connected. Everything's energy. It's all connected, just like these conversations. You just need to know how to connect the parts, but it's all connected. It all, can be put together as a whole.
And, ultimately, just even from the human side of things, we're all connected. I mean, think about it too. We're all made of stars.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we were born. And that's something we should think about next time you want to flip somebody off because they cut you off in traffic, or you want to get behind some, I don't know, politician to go
just
to
get a
war.
Nerf gun, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there was a
funny, like non-threatening approach. It's actually like, what is that? What?
There's a British show called Spaced, and in one episode, there was kind of, I think I don't remember the context now, but basically, like all the guys, it's like they knew that like a battle was about to start, and it was like finger guns, and they were moving in slow motion, like, and then like throwing a grenade, and and that, maybe that's how we should conduct our conflicts.
That should be war. Yeah.
Nerf guns and stuff. Yeah.
Bang! You're dead. No, I'm not.
I said so. So you are. Because I said.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Oh my God, this has been such a good conversation. I needed that too. Like,
Yeah.
Me too.
great.
I was so nervous coming on here at first, and I was like, I wrote down like all these different topics, all these different things. I'm misprepared all the time with everything, just in case things to remember, just in case I go on automatic, because sometimes I have a tendency to go on automatic when I'm nervous, and so yeah, no, this has been great. You guys are awesome. I felt at home and just awesome energy. So yeah.
Yeah, when we started this show, like the first few episodes, we had some notes, and we were like, okay, these are the things we need to talk about. And eventually we figured out, like, we don't need any notes. Like, we just have one idea and we just go off of that. And then eventually we started doing these lightning rounds where we just throw a topic at one another that the other has no idea about. And we just go on for like 5 minutes, and then a bell goes off and we're like, okay, next thing.
Well, we also did the double live lightning round where we live streamed and we had a live audience for your birthday, Casey.
That was awesome. That was the best 40th birthday ever.
It was so crazy because neither of us knew what was coming at us. And
Yep.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll definitely love to have you on anytime. And
I'm totally down.
Yeah.
Totally. I'd love to be a part of the show again. So yeah, just let me know and we'll talk about anything. Arts, tarot, astral projection.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Ooh, I had some thoughts about that. Yeah, definitely. We will.
I'm very excited about it. So
Yeah, we'll have to do this again for sure. This is a hell of a lot of fun.
Right on. Well, thanks for deep sink diving into the tarot cards and everything that's connected in the wibbly wobbly universe around that. Pretty much everything.
Tarot's live.